Значит, и продолжим играть в Half-Life Alyx с комментариями разработчиков. Мы уже прошли основную версию игру, а эту играем просто, чтобы ознакомиться, что нам хорошего могли рассказать разработчики. Да, иногда там попадается интересная информация, но в большинстве все-таки случаев информация особо бесполезна. Это чисто так, для ознакомления, чтобы послушать, узнать. Но опять же, для тех, кому будет интересно и кому влом будет проходить повторную игру. Либо по каким-то причинам они могут приобрести себе шлем виртуальной реальности, чтобы поиграть. Как всегда, нас встречает затылок лысого чувака с краном. Кстати, я сегодня получил наконец-то наборчик, в котором шла замена родной накладки на сам шлемак, плюс замена стандартного ремешка на более удобный. Скажу так, поменял, гораздо все удобнее, шлем держится гораздо увереннее, практичнее, никуда не съезжает, достаточно комфортно, поэтому я считаю, что потраченные деньги и ожидания с Китая оно оправдывали. Также в комплекте шли накладки на контроллеры. Ну, это обыкновенная фактически резина. Зимой нормально, а летом в жару, конечно, будет потная рукам очень сильно. Но самое главное, учитывая, что контроллеры белого цвета, они марки таким образом и будут пачкаться. Таким образом я защитил. Также в комплекте шли накладки на вот эту вот писюльку, опять же, чтобы они не стирались. Фактически у меня джойстики уже полностью защищены. Также у меня были на джойстиках специальные сверху тут накладки, которые в случае удара в стену предотвращали повреждения, но с новыми с новыми вот этими накладочками вот эти защита не надевается, поэтому пришлось их снять. Дальше у нас не идет, просто понятно. Так, там нас ждут комментарии разработчиков. Сейчас подождем, послушаем. У нас здесь фонарик мы должны получить. Так. Что нам хорошего скажет про фонарик?
In prior Half-Life games, the flashlight was attached to the player's body, which meant that it always illuminated the world from the same angle, relative to the player's point of view. With tracked hands in VR, we had the opportunity to let players manipulate the flashlight directly, and playtesters reacted very positively to this new freedom. In fact, our earliest implementation of a flashlight in Half-Life Alyx was an object that could be picked up in either hand or even set back down. This allowed the player to put the flashlight down somewhere, providing illumination for themselves while they accomplished another task. Unfortunately, this presented the possibility that a player could leave the flashlight behind, which would have been a game-breaking scenario. Implementing the flashlight as an object that players had to hold also prevented them from holding something else in that hand, which was tedious to manage and simply too punishing of a trade-off. In particular, it meant that weapon reloading was a nightmare, because the player no longer had a free offhand to perform the reload actions. In the end, we settled on a flashlight that attaches to the offhand and turns on and off automatically. This fixes the issues with reloading in the dark, potentially losing the flashlight, and has the nice side effect of not requiring the allocation of a button to toggle the light, which is especially helpful on controllers with fewer buttons. Since the automatic on-off behavior is controlled using level logic, designers could make performance and quality trade-offs in different areas of the game. After all, if a player could turn the flashlight on at any time, the rendering overhead of this shadow-casting light source would have to be accounted for throughout the entire game. On the other hand, If the flashlight is known to be off in a given area, a designer can make use of the resulting rendering headroom
Абсолютно
by
согласен с
increasing the
ними.
fidelity of the environment in other ways.
Oh, thank God.
Итак, где наши? Много. Вот они, родимые. Ходят тут всякие.
This is fine. It's really dark. Russ,
Yeah?
can you just talk
About what?
about anything? Literally anything.
Well, I think that given our situation, your irrational fear of the dark is actually quite appropriate. You know, I can give you easily 100 reasons to be terrified.
Okay, that was my fault. I'll be more specific next time.
Механика фонарика.
Shortly after adding the flashlight to the game, we discovered the playtesters would frequently brace their gun hand with their flashlight hand. This meant that the players had to orient their flashlight hand awkwardly to align the light with their aim. We decided to make this an automatic behavior of the offhand whenever it was brought close to the grip of the gun. If you do this, you'll see that the offhand grips the gun in a natural pose, and the flashlight aligns with the aim. In fact, if you look closely at the end of the flashlight, you'll notice that it has a ball joint. This allows the flashlight to articulate based on whether the offhand is gripping the gun or not. The ball joint has 4 different orientations, one for each gun, and a neutral orientation for when the player is not supporting the gun to aim. These 4 orientations ensure that the flashlight is always pointed in an ideal direction for the player. In one-handed mode, the flashlight attaches to the gun hand at an orientation that is ideal for all scenarios.
Ну да, фонарик как бы на шарнире, но вот когда светишь в глаз, он не слепит.
Big fan of this flashlight.
And it, not unlike yourself, is also sensitive to the dark,
Oh, yeah?
meaning it should go on automatically when the lights go out.
Oh, nice.
И куда же мне идти-то? Напомните, блин. Нет, ну явно не сюда. О, я прошел, надо же. людей нету. Там тоже ничего нет. Так. Это мы уже послушали.
All right, Russ. Really need you to talk again.
Absolutely. Be specific.
Before. What was life like before the Combine?
Ah, excellent. Alyx, have you ever heard of a club sandwich?
Nope. Not once.
Right. To make a club sandwich, you need to start with bread. Not from a bread line, from a bakery across the street. Baked that day, okay? You add tomatoes, lettuce, not vegetable paste, fresh. Then you add bacon. That's from an animal we used to call the pig. You toast the bread and you put all that inside it.
You guys had all that? That's insane.
It is, and I'm not done. Then you add a second sandwich on top of the first one. You put ham in it, also from a pig, and turkey from an animal we used to call the turkey, and more tomato, more lettuce, and a bunch of other things I'm forgetting. It was 6 inches tall and weighed a pound, and had a dozen ingredients from 5 different continents. It was the most impossible food item you could imagine in any age before ours.
Wow.
I know, right?
That is... wow. Thanks, Russ.
You're welcome, Alyx.
Ладно, давайте убьем. 1, 2, 3, 4. Ничего не упало. Чуть-чуть подлечимся. Сэндвичи. Что за сэндвичи?
When the writers create a new character, we try to write a variety of material from that character's perspective to help find their voice. What motivates them? What do they sound like? How do they relate to other characters? It's helpful to know the answers to questions like this early in a project, particularly when working with a team, where different people might end up writing for that character. The club sandwich story that Russell tells in this section started out as one of these writing exercises. The writing team wrote pages and pages of Russell telling Alyx stories about life before the Combine, getting irritated with her, telling bad jokes, pretty much the whole emotional spectrum. As we refined Russell's character, almost all of that fell by the wayside. We needed to do that work to get to Russell, but most of it didn't sound like Russell anymore. Later in the project, we decided to make Alyx scared of the dark, so we needed Russell to talk a lot in this section to keep Alyx company. It didn't matter what he was saying, it just had to be this voice in the darkness that she was grabbing onto. And then we remembered, hey, didn't we write a rambling sandwich monologue a year ago? And the club sandwich speech was resurrected.
О, кстати, на мне до сих пор этот самый каска висит. Круто. Круто ты попал на ТВ. Ты звезда. Ты знаешь, что можно залезть. Сдохни. Сдохни, 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 сдохни. Так, на телеге, да? Штелька. Следующий уровень. Слушаю. Да-да. Ой. Да-да-да, в ту сторону Новой Риги, инженерная, дом 4, корпус 2. Первый подъезд. Да-да, просто массажу. Квартира 57, по домофону набираете. У меня там просто мама дома, она откроет, все покажет. Меня там нету, просто на месте. Мама на месте, она откроет, все покажет. Угу. Да, конечно. Если что, звоните, конечно. Ага. Дом 4, корпус 2, да. Угу, да, все, давай. Так, ну что, погнали дальше. Можно? Нельзя поднять. Ничего нету, ясно, так.
Wait, is that a dead Combine soldier?
Yeah. When you guys were off stealing the reactor, I saw the Combine moving
Хоть
supplies in
какие-то
here.
боеприпасы лучше
So,
давай.
I guess they're interested in this place again.
Right, we'll keep an eye out. Something's definitely up.
То ли леталки, то ли камера какая-то.
Alyx, manhack! Watch out!
See it.
-1. Их, по-моему, несколько должно быть.
Okay, so right now, what it's like to live on Earth on a scale of 1 to 10. I'd say we're at a 2.
Yep, could always get worse.
What would you rate it before the Combine showed up?
Ooh, that's a toughie. I don't know. Good day? I'd say 6. Yeah, strong 6.
6? That's not great.
Well, that's life, Alyx. You know, it's not always great.
Well, maybe we get the Combine off Earth and we could shoot for like an 8, you know?
Ooh, an 8. Yeah, that really would be nice. Really nice.
Бюджет.
When building a Half-Life game, we try to start playtesting as soon as we can. even when we only have 10 or 15 minutes of gameplay built. We find it extremely helpful to see how players are reacting to what we've made as soon as possible. One of the major ways playtesting impacted Half-Life Alyx was in revealing how players reacted to the density of interactive elements in the world. Before we begin, we were already aware that players would likely spend more time paying attention to the details of the world around them in VR, but we were unprepared for how significant this would be. Seeing some players spend 30 minutes messing around with a single interactive object really opened our eyes. As a result of those playtesting observations, we spend much of our development time focusing on the environment around the player and the level of details and interactivity to be found there. It might seem surprising that we didn't start with the assumption that we wouldn't need to spend that amount of time on the world, but the reality of game development is that we always have a finite amount of time to build a game and we're always making trade-offs. In the ideal case, we spend our finite time on whatever contributes the most to the player's experience. So, playtesting early and thereby getting a better sense of what elements are contributing to the player experience help us understand where to spend the limited time we have. In this case, those early playtests told us to significantly increase the amount we should budget for creating the world details and interactivity.
Oh, holy fish.
Не дают петля. Ну, нет так нет, ладно. Что у нас тут дальше?
Barnacles are a unique enemy type in Half-Life Alyx in that they are static and often situated above the player's natural view direction. During testing in confined or dimly lit spaces, we often saw players walk into barnacle tongues without noticing them. One way we addressed this was with audio. In particular, we made idle barnacles emit subtle breathing, croaking, and grumbling sounds like the following. These sounds helped alert players to the presence of barnacles, and also made them seem like living creatures that were always active, not just a mechanical piece of gameplay that responded only to the player's actions. The head-related transfer functions available in Steam Audio were especially helpful, as they made it possible to accurately spatialize barnacle sounds so that the players could tell that the sounds were coming from above.
Кушай, малыш, кушай. Сдохни. Ничего хорошего, звуки. Манхаков.
Early incarnations of manhacks were frustrating to fight in VR, since their audio was not providing enough information about their location. They seemed to appear from nowhere, and even when close to the player, they lacked a dramatic presence. We tried a variety of layered sounds with varying distance fall-offs, but this often created more confusion, especially when multiple manhacks were nearby. Our ultimate solution to the problem consisted of two parts. The first was to make manhacks emit the following alarm-like warning sound when they first came into range or were deployed by a Combine soldier. The second part of our solution was to add more aggressive looping sounds with short fall-off distances. The short fall-off of these sound loops meant that this specific component of manhack's sound treatment would only be audible quite near the player. Thus, when players heard these sounds, they knew that manhacks had begun hunting them, and one or more was getting close enough to be of concern.
Before Final Art was added, the cramped dark area of this level did not take players very long to traverse. But as the fidelity of the game increased, players spend more and more time getting to this point. As we've learned over the years, too much time in dark underground areas can become fatiguing to players, and this is even more significant in VR. This outdoor section provides a change of pace and a brief respite from the dark. Not only does it give players something visually different and interesting to look at, it allows them to clearly see and assess threat in an open space, allowing them to get some easy kills with a little stress. It was also important to provide some variety here, as players are about to head into a dark area that requires precision shooting and flashlight usage.
Алло. Да, слушаю. Двухподъездный, не, двухподъездный, который внутри, в самой глубине идет. Нет. У меня первый подъезд. Да, двухподъездный дом именно. 57-я квартира. Вот это я не помню, надо нажать кнопочку вызов или нет. Оно может быть само нажмется. Ага. Все, если что, звоните тогда мне. 15-й. Да, лифт и работает. А пока дойдет. Да. Да, 57-я. Не сработало, может быть, еще раз попробуйте набрать. Бывает, домофон не срабатывается. Скажите от Артура. Так, наверное, не тот дом все-таки, что ли? Открыли. Ну давай, 15 этаж. Да, первый подъезд, двухподъездный дом. А я не помню. Я давно там не был просто. Я давно там не был, там родители живут просто. Да, 15, смотрите, там должен быть просто ориентир. Лестница, по-моему, 5 или 6 ступенек, и с правой стороны перила новенькие такие. Есть? Да, когда войдете. Во, все, знаешь, вы туда. Да, значит, все правильно туда. Все, на 15 этаж. Да, все верно, да. Все, на 15 этаж тогда. Может быть, плохо по трубке было слышно. Ну все, да, поднимайте. Если что, звоните. Ага. 57-я. Да. Ага, да, на связи, что все, добро. Угу. Ох, какие красавцы!
Last floor.
Ничего, ничего, ничего. Как же мало патронов.
So, when we get the Combine off of Earth, what are you gonna do?
I'm going full production mode on the Russells, of course.
Oh, of course. You'll be sitting on a landmine.
Gold mine, yep. So here's the plan. Conservative estimate, I figure 1 year to get the world unconquered by the Combine, get them off the planet, so that's year 1. Then another year to mass produce the Russells. Although, just quietly, we will need to rebuild society first, you know, to get some basic infrastructure, jobs, money, that sort of thing. Otherwise people won't be able to buy them, you know. So, yeah, 3 years.
This section, with a multitude of explosive barrels embedded in Zen overgrowth, was designed to switch up player expectations and change the pacing of the level. Prior to this point in the game, explosive barrels and canisters were used as offensive weapons. In this space, they're deadly to the player. If a barrel or canister does explode, it sets off a fatal chain reaction. This change in priority forces players to aim carefully and adds intensity without combat. This has the positive side effect of training players to utilize the pistol even more effectively. While the automatic alignment of the flashlight with a braced weapon is useful in direct combat, in this section we observed players taking advantage of the decoupled weapon and flashlight, as they illuminated and targeted barnacles in the intricate Zen foliage overhead.
Oh boy. Getting dark again.
We decided early on that the environments we wanted to portray in Half-Life Alyx would benefit from an investment in high-quality volumetric lighting. This component of illumination is an indispensable tool, not just for creating atmosphere, but for drawing the player's attention to critical gameplay elements. Our system works in 3 phases. In the first phase, illumination from static light sources is captured in a 3-level hierarchical volumetric clip map surrounding the player. The highest resolution level of this clip map measures 1 cubic inch per voxel. The clip map is updated incrementally, less than once per frame, as the player moves throughout the scene. In the second phase, a compute shader ray marches in view space throughout the clip maps, accumulating static lighting, dynamic lighting, and volumetric extinction. The ray marching is performed every frame and employs temporal anti-aliasing to improve quality. In the final phase, we resample lighting and volumetric scattering from the prior phase for each eye once per frame. The result is a texture that describes, for any given view space depth, volumetric scattering and extinction, which we apply during forward rendering.
Мою кепочку съел. Гад. куда исчез шприц? Следующий этап. Ладно, на сегодня хватит. Сейчас загрузится и отключимся. На карте все еще нету этой базы тюрьмы.